Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining Dr. Judy and I. So welcome to the Art of Healing with your hosts, Dr. Judy Jasek of Animal Healing Arts and Matt Rowe of ParsleyPet. During our show, we are talking about your pet's health, raw feeding, and alternative treatments for cancer, unexplained illnesses, and supporting your pet's natural ability to heal. Welcome, Dr. Judy, to this week's show.
Thanks, Matt. Happy to be here. And I'm really excited about our topic because why not prevent disease rather than treating it after it's already gotten started when we're playing catch up? Let's keep it from developing in our pets to begin with.
Yeah. And I think when we talked about this topic of the show, we started to say, what are the things that we could do to prevent cancer, to prevent disease, to prevent these moments when we go into the vet and we're under this fear and worry and that, oh my gosh, perspective of this happened. How do we prevent certain things like that from happening inside of our dogs? Because that's really what I want to do. I don't want to go in and fix Leo after the fact. I want to take some steps now to make sure that I don't have to fix him.
Yeah, because if your pet gets diagnosed with cancer, that could be, a point of no return, depending on the type of cancer. And, I know in the patients I see, at what point I start treating them, sometimes we're too far behind the ball. So we need to be supporting the body. I think the important thing to keep in mind, humans think they're really smart and thinks we can just intervene and do all this stuff and keep pets healthy. I think the key is we need to get out of the way and let our pets' bodies just stay healthy. They know how to stay healthy. The body can stay healthy on its own. We need, and I think the biggest key to prevention is to stop insulting the body with things that inflame the body and disrupt the immune system and keep the body healthy so that it can do what it needs to do.
Yeah, I love how you say stop did you say insulting the body?
Insulting the body, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, and you're right. The dog wants to remain in homeostasis, that ideal health, because it really doesn't know the difference if it's wild, and biologically doesn't know the difference if it's wild or sitting in your home under, safe and protected. The body is always trying to stay healthy because then it procreates, it has puppies, it stays healthy, and it's able to thrive and protect its pack because we are just all a part of its pack. And so with all of these areas, your dog doesn't want to be sick, doesn't want to ingest things that are going to make it sick. But like you said, we insult the body. So as a step, what are some steps a pet parent can take to keep from insulting your pet's body or keep from leading it down that path to potential disease?
Well, the most important thing is nutrition, which we've talked about at length on this show. Yes. And I think the key to nutrition is you need a fresh food diet. So no kibble. There just is not a good kibble diet. They're all so highly processed. They contain toxic ingredients. They contain glyphosate. They contain tons of synthetic vitamins and minerals that are basically just more chemicals you're putting in your pet's body. And they don't have healthy ingredients to begin with a lot of the times. And then you process them at these super high temperatures. And, they're just not healthy food. So we have to do a fresh food diet. Raw feeding, is great. That's my first go-to if that will work for the pet and the people. There's also some great freeze-dried and dehydrated products, which are fresh meals that are dried. So they're low temperature dried, air dried. It's like eating, beef jerky or something like that. Sure. So they're great for convenience if people just, are going to be traveling or they don't want to worry about dealing with the raw, or sometimes if pets have had a lot of digestive upset, I'll go to a dehydrated or freeze dried just to get them off the kibble before going to a full raw diet. Sometimes older pets will do a little bit better on a dehydrated or freeze dried diet. So, so that's an option. And there's also some lightly cooked products out there that where the meals are prepared, they're cooked at low temperature and fresh frozen. So it's a complete meal, it's just not 100% raw. So there's options. I think there's no excuse for not feeding a fresh food diet. They might be more expensive than the kibble, but it's pay now or pay later. If you don't provide good nutrition for your pet, the body's not going to have the building blocks to stay healthy, and it won't. It won't. I mean, I see so many pets getting sicker and sicker with things like cancer, and I think nutrition is a big part of that. And I think the other real biggie is minimizing vaccines. I think vaccines are so disruptive to the immune system, especially when they're given over and over and over again, and multiple vaccines every year. And I've seen so many, cancer patients that they get that initial diagnosis within a few months of their last round of vaccines. And I think the vaccines can be a tipping point. The body's inflamed, they're not on a good diet, they maybe have some other health concerns, and they get this round of vaccines. And then there's always cancer cells in the body. I mean, you have to think that there's always cells that are changing that could potentially develop into cancer. A healthy immune system will eliminate those abnormal cells. But what I think happens when we vaccinate over and over and over and over again, the immune system gets so dysregulated, it gets overstimulated, and it really doesn't know what's friend or foe anymore. It doesn't know which cells to eliminate, which not to eliminate. Sometimes it attacks itself and we get autoimmune disease, or, cancer is allowed to take hold because the immune system cannot eliminate, can't eliminate the abnormal cells, or it doesn't recognize them, I think, as abnormal because it's been so dysregulated. So minimizing the vaccine insults, minimizing preventatives like heartworm and flea and tick preventatives as much as possible, depending on where people live. And this is where it's important to know what the specific risks are in your area and what would be some natural alternatives that, so we don't have to keep giving these chemicals. And then, so if we're doing all these things to keep the pet healthy, and maybe they do get sick or hurt and they need to be on some pharmaceuticals for a while or something, then their body is much more likely to be able to handle that. And because we're keeping the body healthy and stable from the inside out, it's really, I think it's about doing less rather than more. Don't throw a whole bunch of supplements at your pet. Just feed them a basic, well-balanced, fresh food diet and minimize these other preventatives, because the preventatives are assuming that the pet's body isn't going to know what to do if it's exposed to a disease or a parasite. And the truth of the matter is that a healthy immune system can eliminate those things without, there's this perceived dependence on things like vaccines and these other, anti-parasitic medications, that these are necessary to keep your pet healthy. And I would contend that if we keep the body healthy with good nutrition and quit insulting it with all of these other things, the body can be exposed to disease and handle it. I mean, look at, the experience, that humans are going through with COVID. Some people got very sick and died from it. Others asymptomatic. Most people would get it and, be sick for a few days, and then they recover and they're fine, and they have a natural immunity. And I think that's the healthiest, sadly, I think, in this case with people, you don't see the information out there. Well, are you eating well? Are you taking vitamin D and zinc and selenium and some of these really important nutrients to help support your immune system? Because they've shown that people with adequate vitamin D levels hardly even get sick from COVID.
Right.
But you don't hear that on the evening news, which is
Yeah.
the sad thing about our culture. But I just use that as an example that why do some people get so sick and some don't? It's because the people that aren't getting sick are taking care of themselves. They're, they say, supporting the terrain, making the body an unfriendly host for the virus, because the body can eliminate it if they do get exposed to it.
And I love how you view that as a whole, is a multiple facet perspective. It's usually not just one thing like you had identified, just even in our own human health. Or if we're, for your dog, it's usually not the act of vaccines, singularly as an act of vaccines, that is causing. It's vaccines mixed with a kibble-based, highly processed diet that is inflaming the immune system. Then you take it for a walk through a field that's spread with glyphosate, and that chemical exposure that your dog might be receiving from another area. Then let's just add stress onto that. Let's say your pet is in a stressful home. You have teenagers, they're yelling all the time, and your dog has anxiety and is stressed out in those moments. Now that once we start to pair all this together, it becomes that perfect storm for your pet. And so the more that we can limit this toxic load that may come physically from the food that we feed, from mentally from the environment that we're in, or all of these different things, which we're not giving, we don't think about. But your pet is really being insulted by all of these other areas in their life, and they're really just wanting to be healthy. And then a trigger happens. Their immune system can't battle a cancer cell that's starting to develop. That they have a vaccine that comes in and it's causing an inflammatory response and starting to develop more of these cancer cells that are coming inside of their bodies. So I love how you said, step one, let's take the easy approach. Feed a fresh food diet. Feed the dog what it is meant to eat. Your dog is a carnivore. It's meant to eat meat. It's meant to eat a fresh food diet. It's not out in the field making its own kibble and cooking it down. It's
not nibbling on the ears of corn out there in the cornfield.
No, it doesn't have the opposable thumbs, Dr. Judy, to hold it. So that's why they do it.
That's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So, when they're in these moments, is the more that we can give them, because if your dog was wild, it'd eat a rabbit.
Right.
It wouldn't plant a garden. It's gonna go after, it's a scavenger. Your dog is a scavenger with a very low pH balance in its stomach. So it can eat different things that normally would make us sick. Your dog can eat it. But doesn't mean that we feed it, old items, or we feed it, kibble and think, oh, it'll be fine. No, we feed it a fresh food diet. So we support your dog as much as you can on this process.
Yeah. And it is actually the fresh food diet that keeps that pH in the stomach low and keeps the stomach acidic. I think dogs on kibble diets get into trouble with, when they get in the garbage or something, they'll get super sick and end up in the ER because their pH comes up when they're on a kibble diet, a high carb diet. And so if they do eat something, and dogs are scavengers, they are going to do that, and they get way sicker because their pH is too high, and it's not acidic enough to eliminate the bacteria that they may cook up or may pick up. And dogs also don't build fires to cook their rabbits. Just FYI. They eat them raw. It's that opposable thumb thing. It's hard to strike the matches, and
they can't click the lighter. Like, they can't make it all work. And all I know is that my dog is not patient enough to wait for the fire to get to temp or the meat to cook. Yes, you said that very aptly. Your dog does not cook his meal.
Yeah. If my dogs were depending on me to build fires, they'd be hungry for lunch. We experienced this camping this last weekend, and granted, it was wet, it rained quite a bit. So the ground was wet, and we'd keep our wood dry, but man, we had a heck of a time, getting our fires started and then keeping them going. And I
Right.
sit there and I think, okay, somebody can flick a cigarette butt out and burn down a whole forest.
Uh-huh.
And here I am with all my paper and matches and dry wood, and like we did get it going, and it's lovely to sit by a campfire, but it took a
Right.
while.
You couldn't get the sucker ignited. So yeah, your dog does not do that. It doesn't
Dogs
have
aren't
the
going to do that.
patience for it. And so really by, supporting your dog in its healthy immune system, it can fend off disease. This is what your dog is meant to do, is live a long, healthy, happy life, fending off all the diseases that would come to him, or him or her. And this is where we, like you said, we get involved as humans and say, oh, I know better. This is going to make it more convenient for me. I want to go this route. Or I was told, I read this marketing advertisement that said this is a fresh food ultimate meal to give my dog, but it's still kibble.
Yeah. And I think what's super important, I tell people this all the time, read the ingredients. I mean, as much as I'll curse my computer sometimes, man, to be able to just pull up labels on the internet when I'm talking to a client, say, look what's in here.
Yeah.
And people read the marketing. They're like, oh, this one's good for joint health. Oh, this one's good for, for gut health. And you can't supplement out of a bad diet. You can't say, well, I'm going to feed the kibble, but I'm going to give these vitamins, and that'll make everything okay. It's like, there's no supplement you can take and eat at McDonald's and be healthy.
Right.
And it's the same for your pet. You're so much better off. I hear, comments about expense all the time. Well, if you're not giving all of these extra supplements and you have fewer trips to the vet, and you're not going to be treating these expensive diseases, not to mention the heartache that goes along with treating diseases like cancer,
Right.
you're going to save so much money in the long run. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm convinced of it. And come on, I mean, I understand that some people may have true, financial difficulties, but we can all rearrange our budgets if we have to. I mean, I know I certainly could. I could,
Right.
I could trim the fat, and I think most people, probably can cut back on Starbucks or things like that. So the not being able to afford it, I think perhaps people just need to look at that a little bit differently. And can they rearrange their budget? And if you look at the money you're going to be saving on so many other things by feeding a fresh food diet, it's just a no-brainer. Plus your pet's going to be healthy. Your pet's going to enjoy a healthier, more vibrant life.
Yeah.
Or, eating a fresh food diet, you're going to enjoy your pet. They're going to have fewer aches and pains and a lot less disease. So it's pay now or pay later, in my opinion.
Yeah. So well said. Well, thank you, Dr. Judy, for the show today. This is, when you look at, we all want to protect our dogs. We all want them to be happy and healthy. And it's easier than what you think. It's
less is more sometimes, really. Like sometimes we just need to get out of the way. I think we think these opposable thumbs make us smarter, but I don't think so. Not always the case.
Definitely not helping us light fires any better.
Truly not.
Thank you, Dr. Judy, for this week's show. This is just a beautiful reminder on how to keep our dogs to be the incredible dog that we know they are.
My pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you guys soon. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.